We were scheduled to do the Naples Zoo today, but since we didn't have our dolphin cruise yesterday, we were able to do it yesterday. So we're going to spend the entire day in Big Cypress Swamp Nature Area, located in the area adjacent to the Everglades. And as you can see, the water flow, as you get further west and east, it gets drier. This is going to be our route through the area. Since we drove over 8 hours, we're going to do this a little differently. We're going to show the area that we drove through first, and then we're going to look at the animals we saw. First, we started off on I-75 called Alligator Alley, but it's not really, because it has high enough fences that the animals can't get on the road. So we take off down a side highway, Highway 29, hoping to see some animals along the road, but we don't see them there either. We take some side trips. First, we go down a narrow little unimproved road to see and have to turn around, but we did get to see some plants. And our second trip, we go by some houses. There's a airboat, and then we go on down. Soon we're off on another side road. This is a gravel road, and it's kind of bouncy, but you can see the vegetation along here is mainly the cypresses. Then we're off on North Turner Road. You can see the vegetation starts to get less and less as we go on along. We pull into a small area with a little pond and look at it a while. Don't see much animals there. Thought we might see alligators, but we don't. But you can see this grass, it is the dry season of the year. It would be under about 3 or 4 inches of water flowing through this area during the wet season. As we head on down the road, you can see the various palm trees with the grass growing around it. Water would actually be flowing over this road here in the wet season. Here we're getting a little bit further to the west, and you can see more of the cypresses growing. And then as we get further south, you can see the pine trees growing in the drier areas. We come to one of the roadside parks, and this has a boardwalk that you can go out and look at the alligators, but we've been seeing a lot. We'll look at them later. So we go on down to the Tamiami Trail, Highway 41, and this is one of the main roads through here. After a while, we get back and loop back on the loop road. The beginning of the loop road is houses, but as we get further on down, we come to just plants and vegetation as we're again out in the National Wildlife Area. And there's an alligator trying to cross the road. We drove past it, so let's back up and look at it. Over on the left, right under the tree, you see that dark area. On the loop road is where we saw most of the alligators that we saw, but we did see them in other places also. Along the loop road, you can see the cypresses growing. There's a ditch on the left-hand side with water in it, and we can look down in it sometimes and see various alligators. But you can see all the bromeliads up in the trees growing here. Yes. And these trees are cypress trees. You can see the knees growing in the rocks. This would be totally underwater during the wet season of the year. Moving further down the loop road, the paved road gives way to a gravel road, and as you can see, it's pretty shaky and bumpy. And then we're back on Highway 41 Tamiami Trail and heading towards the west, back towards Naples. Now let's look at some of the animals that we saw. A red-shouldered hawk sitting in a tree. There were lots of black vultures. And the great blue herons were out fishing also. We saw many of the great white egrets at various places. And the snowy egrets were easy to tell if they're yellow feet. There were lots of white ibis out feeding. But the main animal we were looking for was the American alligators, and we saw hundreds of them. We came to one clearing and there were probably 24 8-foot-long alligators sunning on the bank of the ditch. We also saw some baby alligators, as these are. They're crawling in. They're about 2 feet long. At one place we saw a flock of double-crested cormorants feeding in the water and sunning on the rocks. Eastern lubber grasshoppers were everywhere. They're about 6 inches long. We saw several different types of turtles, including this common snapping turtle crossing the road. It seems a lot of the turtles were out ready to lay eggs. This pond slider was one of them. And we saw about a dozen Florida soft-shell turtles, some of them up to 2 feet across, crossing the road or digging places to put their eggs. And this brings us to the end of day 20.